Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Allured. We continue Book 4, the Book of Birth and Quest, Canto 3, The Call to the Quest, page 375, about 12 lines from the bottom.
And we see that Sri Aurobindo has a very charming way of saying things. Mother says that,
Yes.
So, if you read through Savitri, there are several passages which are mantric. Means everything is mantra, and there are passages which come from very high plane. For instance, in Issue, where he describes the Divine Mother for the first time.
Oh, yes.
And there are places where there is a voice heard, or there is, and they are also very powerful passages. But it is here that Sri Aurobindo speaks of the mantra. When Ashupati speaks to his daughter, and what does he tell her? Go and find your ideal mate.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that, say a passage where Savitri gets the command for yoga. The voice replied. Now, those are not the places where he brings in. They are all mantras. But they are not the places where he brings in the mantra, because here it qualifies for that. It's a speech which rises from the depths of his heart and has come from high on. It's a very intuitive speech which is leading her to her destiny.
And for me, that passage that begins as in a mystic and dynamic dance.
That's what I was referring
Amal
to.
said that he asked if it was not the Ne Plus Ultra.
Yeah. It is the highest
Sri
passage.
Aurobindo acknowledged.
Yes. That whole passage where Savitri is described in Book 1, Canto 2. But here, because when he speaks Ashupati, he does not know, apparently, the import of his words. It's going to change the entire destiny of Savitri. It's coming from above and it's rising from the heart on a crest of emotion.
Yes.
So this is where the mantra comes from. And its effect is what we read last time: an equal greatness in her life was sown. Accustomed scenes were now an ended play. So, very beautifully now this canto toward the end, and the quest will describe the transition when human consciousness turns towards something much deeper than what it has been used to, the ordinary life, surface life, and the deeper life. So it starts this way: accustomed scenes were now an ended play. Those things in which we took interest, we enjoyed, we felt this is life, they tend to recede into the background. Moving in muse amid familiar powers, touched by new magnitudes and fiery signs, she turned to vastnesses not yet her own. So you see, it's the inner journey.
Yeah.
Suddenly, things which were unclaimed within, though she was still moving with the people who were around, but there was a vast inner change taking place within her.
And she's still very young.
Yes.
She is not yet, they're not yet her own.
Yes.
Those vastnesses.
Allured, her heart throbbed to unknown sweetnesses. The secrets of an unseen world were close. So this is what happens when we turn to yoga. The things which held our interest deeply, the outer life that engages us through the senses all the time, that begins to pale into insignificance, and we are more and more engaged and interested in the vastnesses within, in the sweetnesses which are not yet disclosed, in the secret forces that move creation. They become the purpose of our pursuit. The morn went up into a smiling sky. This is a very, very beautiful description now of the day. She has come back in the evening, and Ashupati has, told her what we have just read. And now she has to move out in quest.
And they're still in the palace.
Yes.
And it's such a beautiful place. Who would want to move from that?
Yes. So, this description when I read, I'm also reminded of, you see, there have been so much talk about Buddhas moving away. And this passage has a very uncanny resemblance, but in a very different way to the quest. Now, why does Buddha move away? Buddha moves away because he realizes that there is so much suffering and he wants to find a cure for it. And how does he go away? He gets up at night and he looks first at one of the ladies who is sleeping in the palace, and she's sleeping in a very crude posture, and he is filled with disgust. Then he looks at his wife and the child, and he looks at them, and he feels that attachment, but next moment he thinks that as if they are dead. That is how it is described. So in Buddhism, one of the meditation is as if you are dead. And when mother was told about this, she said, no, we don't meditate like that. We don't treat the body as something dead. It's a temple of the divine. And then he moved out. Now here also Savitri is moving out. But look at the quest.
Yes.
It is not because she is unhappy, she has seen some sick person but she is in pursuit of something much greater than whatever the framework of life can offer. A Buddha sees something which is one of the worst things that life can offer. Old age, death, disease. But life has many beautiful and charming things to offer. But here she has the best of things to offer. I mean, as you said, she's in a palace. She's all the comforts of life. Everything. The morn went up into a smiling sky, cast from its sapphire pinnacle of trance. Day sank into the burning gold of eve. 3 lines describe the coming of the morn and the sinking of the day into eve. The moon floated, a luminous waif through heaven. Waif is a homeless. So he doesn't have he doesn't have a place, and he is floating through heaven in search of a home for itself. And sank below the oblivious edge of dream. Night lit the watchfires of eternity, all the stars. Then all went back into mind's secret caves, a darkness stooping on the heaven bird's wings, sealed in her senses from external sight, and opened the stupendous depths of sleep. So this is a description also of the sleep as we drift into sleep slowly in the deeper and deeper states. And here is Savitri, as the moon is going down, she is entering into that.
And he calls her a heaven bird.
Yes, heaven bird. Yes, of course. She stays where she descends. And now you see how he describes. He doesn't describe that, then she looks and then she goes away. But look at how Sri Aurobindo describes this. When the pale dawn slipped through night's shadowy guard, vainly the newborn light desired her face. The sun and the moon are, looking for her. Where is she gone? She is no more there. The palace woke to its own emptiness. The sovereign of its daily joys was far. See, when Buddha goes, it is Buddha and his state. What happens when they woke up? When Rama goes, it is Rama's journey. What would have happened? It's described a little bit in Ramayana, but from a very different perspective. So the palace wakes up and feels empty. The sovereign of its daily joys was far. Her moonbeam feet tinged not the lucent floors. The beauty and divinity were gone. Delight had fled to search the spacious world. And here ends Canto 3. Now this 4th canto, just a little background before we, the quest. So, Sri Aurobindo, it's a mystic poetry and it works on several levels. Outwardly, it is now the quest of Savitri to find her ideal mate. But it's very interesting, it works on 2 more levels. Inwardly, it is the divine who is in search of those who can be his partners in the great game of life.
Yes.
You see, the poem Hound of Heaven, Francis Thomas.
Yeah.
Sri Aurobindo has rated it very highly, and he said, if even just for this one poem, the poet has written his name among the great ones. He may not have written anything else of this quality. But what is this Hound of Heaven? It's about the intuitive goddess who is searching for the soul And he describes, I hid myself in the depths and it found me there.
I fled him down the ways.
Yeah, I fled. He's running away from God, and God is searching and sending his searchlights and digging him out. So look here that it is the divine who finds us. That's why it is a well-known thing that when the soul is ready, the guide finds us, the guru finds us, the master finds us, the divine finds us. It doesn't work like, I'll find, let me try, test, let me see who is my ideal guide. And he has strange ways of finding. Look at Amal Kiran. Leading his life, enjoying in every way, which way, no need to qualify. And one day he goes to buy a pair of shoes. Fashionable person. And the shoes are wrapped in a newspaper. And the newspaper has an article on Sri Aurobindo, but not a very appreciative article. It is something which is a bit critical. And when he reads it, he says, he can be my guru. And then there is a long journey all the way, but actually all the time it is he who is drawing him. And then finally when he reaches, he has his first darshan. And he was very impressed looking at Sri Aurobindo. He is so majestic. He was struck by the appearance. And of course, Sri Aurobindo's appearance is majestic. He is so majestic. Look at his face. And he is the master. And all that came up in him. So when he was keen to know what did Sri Aurobindo say about him. So he asked the mother. Mother said, he remarked, he is very handsome. Just exactly what he was seeing in him. And of course, the closeness that grew and the intimacy, it's a wonderful story. How the divine finds us. There is another very interesting story of Chote Narayanji. He was going through suddenly a very deep crisis in his life for no apparent reason. And one day he feels so much disturbed and he, in that anguish, rushes all the way to a Kali temple, forsaken Kali temple. And when he goes there and he says, I'm tossing and turning, I don't know, I'm going through this state, what is the solution? He doesn't even understand what he's going through. And then he hears a voice, write to the mother of Pondicherry. And then he says humorously, there is only one divine who has spoken in English. From that time, now see the beauty of the story, that when he starts writing, he says from that moment onwards, he was all the time seeing a rose in front of him. The deathless rose, the psychic being. For 15 days it continued, till he got the answer outwardly. So actually he was called, the answer was already there, and the answer of course was come. That's all. Come. So it is the divine who finds us, and when the time has come, so now Savitri is going in quest of those, the Satyavan, who is symbolic of the soul, which is ready for this great game of life.
I would like to add one thing about Amal, because it was very interesting. I said, how often did you see Sri Aurobindo? He said, never. I said, why? Because he had such a long correspondence. And I had known Amal for more than 30 years. And he said, because we were certain he would never leave his body. And he missed seeing Sri Aurobindo.
There is another example of Dyuman Bhai.
Yes.
He was given the task of cleaning Sri Aurobindo's room. The mother told him only one condition, you will not look up and look at Sri Aurobindo. Raise your eyes and look at Sri Aurobindo. For 5 years, every day he was doing it. And it must have been a great temptation, at least with the corner of your eyes. How they have served and the way they have walked, it's amazing, because they show us the path. This is the path. Path is not about just sitting how to meditate. Path is about what attitude with which we go through life. So that's how it opens. And at the third level, this quest operates, that we will read, that Savitri's journey starts from a very comfort zone of her palace. And city life, full of the noise and the pomp and the show of life, and slowly she goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, the third level at which this symbol operates is where is Satyavan? He is in the depths, far away from the noise of the surface. How are we to find? We cannot find, but the grace of the Divine Mother can lead us to Him. Because it is she who goes and finds Him. We can't find just by ourselves. But she can lead us deep into that depths where Satyavan is there, in that wonderful soulscape, if we may call it, another landscape. So maybe you can start.
Canto 4. The Quest. The world ways opened before Savitri. At first, a strangeness of new, brilliant scenes peopled her mind and kept her body's gaze. But as she moved across the changing earth, a deeper consciousness welled up in her. A citizen of many scenes and climes, each soil and country it had made its home. It took all clans and peoples for her own, till the whole destiny of mankind was hers. These unfamiliar spaces on her way were known and neighbors to a sense within. Landscapes recurred like lost, forgotten fields. Cities and rivers and plains her vision claimed, like slow recurring memories in front. The stars at night were her past's brilliant friends. The winds murmured to her of ancient things, and she met nameless comrades loved by her once.
So beautiful. The world ways opened before Savitri. What a powerful line, just. It's as powerful as it was the hour before the gods awake. That's the thick of night. And here, the world ways opened before Savitri. The next few lines also indicate how she had lived her life. There used to be a term, still is, terms don't die, but people of that kind, it doesn't apply to anyone, for princesses of a very high breed. High breed, I mean a high stock. In those days, there was a lot of importance given to, stock. A great lineage of kings. There was a term used for them, Asuryam Pasya. She never stepped out and seen the world. Asuryam Pasya. She has always been in the secluded, guarded palace, and she has felt the sun, knows the sun, but it is always through a filtered light, a gentler one, not really ventured out into the open market and that kind of life.
She had experiences,
Yes.
but they were all within the palace.
At first, a strangeness of new brilliant scenes, so everything is new for her, peopled her mind and kept her body's gaze. But as she moved across the changing earth, a deeper consciousness welled up in her. One of the things when Huta was telling me once, she wanted to, or somebody had asked her to come to England and stay. There were some issues, that's not the really important point, but she asked mother, should I go or should I not go? And mother said, if you travel, you will become wide. This was what she had told her. And so she traveled, and it's so true. In ancient times in India, now it's a forgotten thing. One of the ways when children were to turn into adulthood, from adolescence into adulthood, they were asked to travel through the country. It was called Deshatan. So when you travel through a place, it makes you suddenly mature and wide. You step out of the comfort zone, you discover new things, new challenges, and it's one of the wonderful ways of growing into adulthood in a very remarkable way. Not by just any outer teaching. So here she has stepped and she is experiencing all these new things. And what does she discover? A citizen of many scenes and climes. So in 1912, she has written a note when she was asked to speak. Most likely that is the background. that Abdul Baha had asked her to speak.
Oh, yes, yes.
And she says that I belong to no country, no nation, no civilization. I belong to the whole mankind, and I am a servant of God, and whatever I have done, always His bidding. But to speak in the name of a doctrine, the eternal wisdom forbids me. So, what a vastness.
And he wanted her to take over.
Yeah, he wanted her to take over. He said, no, I can't speak. And then she has spoken. What a wonderful, spontaneous, one of the, speeches, I think, February issue of All India Magazine. It's not an advertisement break for AIM, but we have taken that speech of, she speaks because Abdul Baha has asked her to speak. So a citizen of many countries and many scenes and climes, but we sometimes want to appropriate the divine. So as I said, one of the things that used to hurt me earlier when I read the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry.
Yes.
I said, this is very limited mother. She is much vaster than the creation. And indeed, that's how she reveals it to you slowly. But initially, that is how we want to limit her. Each soil and country it had made its home. Even in this life, we see, at least we know that she traveled into these continents, Africa, Europe, and Asia. These three continents she had traveled. It took all clans and peoples for her own, till the whole destiny of mankind was hers. So it's very interesting. We are reading this canto on the 100 years of her final arrival.
Yes.
And everywhere she went, she was at home and they felt at home with her. So the other day I was sharing this with someone, a friend had come. So I was sharing this in the Gita. There is a phrase that describes the God lover. And there are many signs of the God lover. So he is sweet, he is many things, he is love. But one sign is very interesting, and the sign is he is not agitated by the world and the world is not agitated by him. I said, first part you can practice. How do you practice the second part? Long back, this used to occur to me that how do you practice the second part? You have to reach that degree of perfection that nobody is agitated by you. So that is, she made everybody her own. If you see her photographs in Japan, and when somebody asked the place where she had stayed, he said, for you she is mother. But for us she was a very sweet and loving sister.
Yes.
I lived so close to the volcano that I can't say. I mean, from a distance you say, well, volcano, but you are living close, so you get used to the sight, you get used to the heat, you get used to that way of life. So that is how,
And her friend came here.
Yes, he came here. That's when he was asked.
Yes.
And wherever you see her pictures, and even when later on they would come, Alexandra David Neal,
Yes.
quite a few others who came,
Yes.
what was her response to them? How she met them? So different from a traditional idea of spirituality, say, no, I have nothing to do with anybody now, I am, far away living in some remote, inaccessible heights. She was accessible to all, one and all. So, these unfamiliar spaces on her way were known and neighbors to a sense within, landscapes recurred like lost forgotten fields, cities and rivers and plains her vision claimed like slow recurring memories in front. The stars at night were her past brilliant friends. So she is ageless and deathless and she is timeless. So, they know her and she knows them. The winds murmured to her of ancient things and she met nameless comrades loved by her once. So there are some experiences of the mother in this life which were like that. When somebody was describing about the Himalayas and asked, Mother, have you been to Himalayas? She says, I have often gone there in my subtle body. Then there is another interesting experience of her with the Himalayas. She is looking through the window in the guest house. This is here, opposite the guest house. And suddenly, the sunlight fell upon that glass. And she had a grand vision of the entire Himalayan range. She describes that experience. And third is when she says, you know, in ancient times they tried for physical immortality in their own way. One of these births I still remember. It's about a princess in Kashmir, present Kashmir, where she is buried under the Himalayas.
Yes.
She is still buried there. Still buried there, and there is no degeneration in the body. And she says it must have been 1,000 years ago. So all these things she recollects. So several places, suddenly she stands in front of one of the palaces in France, and it comes alive with all the dresses and everything. I think it was Louis XIV, the Sun King.
Yes.
And she looks and everything comes alive because it's her own life. She goes to the Doge in Italy, and that gory scene suddenly comes like a flash to her. So she reclaims all this because she is not just a citizen of one country, or the whole world is in her.
We should look carefully at this line. Cities and rivers and plains, her vision claimed. She's traveled a long way.
Yes.
This is not just a short journey.
Yeah.
She has gone through cities and rivers and plains and countries, and she sleeps in palaces and she sleeps on bare mats.
Yes, that's
It's
a
a long
description
journey
which
to find.
we'll read. It's a very beautiful description.
Yes.
All was a part of old forgotten selves. Vaguely or with a flash of sudden hints, her acts recalled a line of bygone power. Ever her motion's purpose, even her motion's purpose was not new. So you see one of those famous stories when Dara, Sayyid Ibrahim, as his name was, he comes and meets Sri Aurobindo, and he has this idea that because of the duality, in Islam you cannot become one with the divine. So the yoga stops at religion, it doesn't go further. So Sri Aurobindo asks him, how did you find the sea? He said, beautiful. Then he has this question, sir, is the divine there in the sea also? And then Sri Aurobindo raises his foot a little and presses it on the stool and says, yes, he is everywhere. And he had a vision of the divine. And even after that, again doubts will cross his mind. That maybe because I am a Muslim, Sri Aurobindo is not giving me some of those experiences, and he sees Krishna. And how human mind can play. And then Sri Aurobindo asked him, have you seen the mother? No. Go and see the mother. So as he is going to see the mother, mother is standing at the doorstep and smiles and says, so Dara, you have come. Mother, I am not Dara. Oh, I know. You are Dara. You are Dara. And what interesting, those limericks, those doggerels type of lines he used to write. Life divine, mother swine. It is out, let us shout. And another was when he would ask the mother for his ration of tea. Mother Almighty, where is my tea? Like that. And she had a ways, different ways with different people, because she knew their inner nature. I mean, he is one person to whom literally money was provided, not money, actual to smoke. He was one of those. Otherwise, smoking is not allowed. But he was the one to whom from the mother he used to take, so that one day this tendency drops away. But for a long time, interesting.
And this line, even her motion's purpose was not new. It tells us that she has gone through this.
Always worked towards this great. When Nagin Doshi asked Sri Aurobindo, what were you doing? This life you have come as avatar. What were you doing in your previous lives? He says, we came as vibhutis. What were you doing as vibhutis? He says, carrying on the evolution. What does it mean? Next question. It would mean writing, to explain it would mean writing the whole history of the earth. Carrying on the evolution.
Yes.
Look at, Hatshepsut and all the various Elizabeth or her latest incarnation, Catherine the Great. It's amazing. Some of the things that she spelt out and left as an impression upon the Russian mind. The falling of the Tsardom and the communism, they have not been able to remove that. It still is impressed. It is the basic imprint on which even they acted so strange. So, so she reclaims all these because she has to carry everything together towards the future. And she met nameless comrades, loved by her once. All was a part of old, forgotten selves, vaguely or with a flash of sudden hints. Her acts recalled a line of bygone power. Even her motions' purpose was not new. Traveller to a prefigured high event, she seemed to her remembering witness soul to trace again a journey often made. In life after life, they have labored and suffered in matter's night, to bring the fire to men. But the hate of hell and human spite
are my meat since the
earth
world began.
And so many, Dilip Kumar Roy throwing doubts after doubts, unable to accept the mother. And Sri Aurobindo keeps writing, one whom I have cherished as my son. And who is Dilip Kumar Roy? One place in Records of Yoga, I'm not sure whether he knew it. He knew it because he was very unhappy when he came to know about it much later. But in Records of Yoga, Sri Aurobindo has written, Dilip Hector.
Yeah.
Greek times. He knows him. He knows, he remembers.
And years later when he came to Mother, I think I might have mentioned this before, he comes before Mother and Mother says, why do we do this yoga? And he says, to transform ourselves, to get rid of desire and all that. Mother says one sentence, to please Sri Aurobindo.
We are here to please Sri Aurobindo. So simple, so beautiful. And if you really just keep this sentence, just like Sri Aurobindo's famous, always remember that the mother is looking at you. For indeed, she is always present. Actually, if we just remember this one rule, everything changes. A guidance turned the dumb revolving wheels. This again, to trace again a journey often made. When she came back finally from Japan, she describes, she met Sri Aurobindo and she describes that my head was near his shoulder, not touching it, a little away. She describes in great detail. And spontaneously there is a question, will it be this time or not? Because they have labored for it. Agastya Lopamudra. How long shall we dig deeper and deeper?
Yes.
And Sri Aurobindo just looked and said, yes. And instantly she saw the supermind descend upon us, the power of the word. And then she gives this example and connects it in a very beautiful way to sadhana. She says, so you see the power of the word. So when you go to Sri Aurobindo, this is under a conversation which is titled Victory Over Falsehood. And she says, so if you go to Sri Aurobindo and say, this is my falsehood, take it away and remove it, and when Sri Aurobindo says, yes, this is bound to happen. That is the power of his word. And that is the, whatever time it takes. You see, she saw, yes, it took 50 years for that to materialize actually. Not 50, but 36 years. But it will happen because, he has said yes. So she connects it straight away to everyday.
I'd like to talk on these two lines.
Beautiful lines.
About, she seemed to her remembering witness soul to trace again a journey often made. A guidance turned the dumb revolving wheels. Now, what are those wheels? Well, she's in a chariot drawn by 4 white horses, and the wheels are turning, and the guidance is turning, the silent guidance is turning those wheels.
And it may look as if it's you who is driving, but the driver is backseat driver who has set the GPS And you cannot but eventually go towards that.
And
Yes.
I would like you
Yeah.
to speak to us about the next two lines. And in the eager body of their speed, the dim masked hooded godheads rode, who move assigned to man immutably from his birth, receivers of the inner and outer law, at once the agents of his spirit's will and witnesses and executors of his fate.
So you see the
There are
whole-
two Godheads who accompany us through life.
Yes. So this is very interesting. The wheels, the
Yeah.
dumb revolving wheels is also the wheel of time. And there is a guidance even behind all the anomalies, the flow and flux of time.
Yes.
Even when we feel lost, there is a guidance. There is another beautiful passage in the Secret Knowledge where he says, when nothing we can see but drift and bail, a mighty guidance leads us still through all.
Yes.
So there is a guidance in life. There is a guidance in the flow and flux of time. It doesn't speak dumb revolving wheels. And then what is happening? Now this too, it's very interesting. If you look at it from time, it is day and night. It's described very beautifully in, when you look at fate, several places fate is described like in Greek mythologies as somebody who's weaving a, charkha. And day and night, they are the ones. As you speed, there is a passage of time. Now day and night are also symbolic of both aspects of a life. The bright side and the dark side, the happy things and the things that are,
Yes.
not so happy, painful things. And through all this, now that's where it comes, through all this, who is actually creating all these events? Hooded, they are hooded. They are not evident. We are caught up in this pleasure, we are caught up in this pain, we think this is fortunate, we think this is unfortunate. But the hooded agency says, look at this fellow, fortune has come smiling to him, which will change his destiny, and he's calling it misfortune. And look at this other fellow, he is rejoicing. How fortunate am I? Doesn't know that he is stuck now for the next 10 years because of this so-called fortune.
But these Godheads are assigned to man.
Yes, they are assigned to men. They are the ones who lead us. And they will eventually, that mission for which we are born, they lead us through all these circumstances. So look at, and in the eager, a guidance turned the dumb revolving wheels, and in the eager body of their speed. Now this word eager is very interesting. Before you can catch it, they have gone ahead. See, the present is ever vanishing.
Yes.
So there is the sense of eager. Why they are eager? They are wanting to carry us to the future, which they are already carrying within them. So in the eager body of their speed, the dim masked, hooded Godheads rode who move, assigned to man immutably from his birth, receivers of the inner and outer law. At once the agents of his spirit's will and witnesses and executors of his fate. So they are now very interesting cryptic. Agents of his spirit's will.
Yes.
Whom do they obey? Your spirit. You have decided deep within. Then what do? They execute.
Yes.
And then it looks as if circumstances and situations to our outer personality. We think situations and circumstances are coming up. Oh, how sad. Why God did this to me? God didn't do this to you. I have chosen to go through it. When we look at it from this perspective, it's such a empowerment. Actually, it's empowerment. The day you know that destiny is nothing but our own soul's choice. There is a line in Savitri, Ananke. Ananke is
our
own
soul's
being's choice.
decree. Yeah.
And what is Ananke? It's utter, you can use the word fate, but it is the ultimate. And even that is our own choice. When everything is collapsed, there is complete destruction, demolition. We have chosen to go through it because this alone would carry us through the fastest way. The eager body of their pursuit. But we hold on to the, scenes that are passing by. Maybe we can stop here. This reminds me of, this fate and about our attitudes that, when we go in a ship, or a boat, so you can have two perspectives. One is you stand in the front, the keel of the ship, and the other is you stand behind. Now, in any case, ship will carry you to wherever it is carrying you. The difference is when you look toward the future, you are happy and eager and looking forward, as they say. If you stand behind, you are worried about what you are losing, you are crying, you are unhappy. Oh, that familiar shore is being left behind. This is the difference.
Very good image. Very good.
So we'll stop here and meet on Sunday.
So next Sunday.
Yeah.
Namaste.